Om Shuklam Bharadharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarvavighnopashantaye Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murtibheda Vibhagine Yomavad Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Okay, so we are going on to the next few questions. Very good questions and very important. Everybody has these, and there's certain things that we need to understand clearly. So we'll look at that. It's good. There's a few questions that are interconnected. So I'll read the questions together and then we'll cover the topic. So it says it's connected to chapter 2, verse 47. If we are not entitled to the fruits of our action, then what is the motivation to do our duty? Isn't it a bit unrealistic to expect us, mere human beings, to be so altruistic as to focus only on the duty and not the results? Surely the results help to motivate us to perform the duty in the first place. So, how do we practice detachment from the results? Okay. So, if we are not entitled to the fruits of our action, what's the motivation to do our duty? There is no motivation. Really, there is no motivation. Forget do duty. There is no motivation to do any action. You know, why do we do any action? We do an action to get a result. You know, when I perform an action, I expect there is a result. Otherwise, there is no point to performing any action. Even Sri Krishna, when he spoke Bhagavad Gita, he started talking to Arjuna. He had an expectation. And the expectation was that Arjuna, at the very least, is going to understand what he's telling. If he didn't have any expectation, even whether he even is going to understand or not, then why would he do it? His expectation was that he would be understood. His expectation was that he is not going to be understood, then he may not have done it. So, prayojanam anuddishya mandopi na pravartate. It is said. So, without seeing, expecting some result, without having a result in mind, even a person who is not a big thinker is not going to do any action. Okay. So, that is clear. So also it's not a question of course we are entitled to the fruits, because the fruits are connected to the action. In fact, when there is an action, the fruits are connected to the action that is performed. If I put a step forward, then I will move a step forward. So the consequence of an action is very directly connected to the action. Our problem is we don't understand what the result is most of the time. So we have different expectations than what is going to happen. But what is going to happen is connected to the action that is performed. It's like a law. So we have to understand the verse here contextually says karmani eva adhikaraste. It says ma phaleshu kadachana. So Sri Krishna tells Arjuna that you have an adhikara. Adhikara means the expectation, really speaking. You karmani eva. In doing an action, you have a right in terms of doing the action. Okay. So take any action. Any action. In order to do an action, you have when you say adhikara here means choice. I have a choice in the performance of an action as a human being. That is where the will comes in. We are endowed with a will. And that will, based on our will, we choose to do this or to do that. at least to some extent. May not be 100% will, but the will is involved. So if I have to perform an action to get a result, I have different options. I can perform the action, I need not perform the action, and I can do different kinds of action to get the result, same result. All people may not perform the same action to get the same result. So all are performing one particular result is there. There are different ways they may do to get that. So in when it comes to action, I have a choice. A choice is I do the action or I don't do the action, or I can do the action in different ways, whatever I want. Now it comes to the result. When it comes to the result, do I have a choice in the result or not? Is a question. Just as I have a choice with respect to the action, do I have a choice with respect to the result that's going to come to me? I have an exam to pass. I have a choice. I can study hard. I need not study hard, or I study to different degrees. Okay. That I have a choice. Now the result, which means I'm going to pass or I'm going to fail this result, do I have a choice? Do I have a choice? You know, there are times when I study so much and I expect, of course, I expect to pass. Whether I study or not, I expect to pass. But then sometimes so don't study and I fail. I don't study and sometimes I end up passing. Sometimes I study and I pass, I study and I fail, and all this don't really have any say, any control over the action the result that comes to me. Okay. This is what the verse says. Karmani adhikaraha te ma phaleshu. Ma means no, never. So I have the freedom to exercise my right in different ways when it comes to an action to be performed. But when it comes to the result of the action, I don't have a choice. The result will come to me depending on. So, how does the result come to me then? Well, it depends on various factors. Various factors. Some of it has to do with the effort I put in, you know. So as I put in more effort, then the likelihood of my passing increases. There's no guarantee 100%, but the likelihood increases. And so some of it has to do with my action. So also how much action, how much time I put in, and some of it is unknown. There is an unknown, you know. Depends on what questions are going to be there. Sometimes you get the questions and just you happen to know, even though you don't know the subject matter too much. Or we do guesswork, or we take a chance, or the right question. So whatever, different things are there, variables, the unknown variables are there. Okay. So in every action, there is the known and the unknown variable. Known is in terms of the effort I put in, the choices I make. Unknown is unknown. Unknown is unknown. So even though it is unknown to me, I can take the unknown in different ways now. I can understand. So many people say, well, how come you didn't study but then you passed? Oh, I was lucky. I was lucky. I just got the questions I happened to know. So some people attribute to luck. Some people attribute to chance. Some people attribute to something. Some people say, no, no, things don't just happen out of no reason. I see everything here. There is an order, there is a purpose, there is a meaning. They see a purpose and an order around them, and that they attribute to. So there is a being, Daivam, call it Daivam. So it is the doing of the one who is maintaining and who is part of this order. So the unknown variable is looked upon as Daivam. You know, Daivam is that which has come from Deva, from God, from something divine, something which is beyond me, which I may not understand, but I recognize. I recognize. We recognize many things which we don't understand. And then there are things which we experience but we don't recognize. Okay. So here it is things that I experience, but I also recognize in a certain way. So there are two things involved here. There is an action and there is a result. I need to understand both, where both are coming from and how they apply to me. Karmani adhikaraha na phaleshu. I have a choice in the action that I am performing. How I perform, what I perform, where I perform, why I perform. And then there is a result. I have no choice in the result. Okay. So now it's a chance element. And one person will say, well, if it's all chance, if it's all a matter of chance, then why should I do? I would rather now 50%, 50-50, let us say. So I may get it, I may not get what I want, I may get what I want. If I get what I want or don't get what I want, suppose 50% chance I'm not going to get, then why should I do it anyway? That's also 50-50. So somebody think like that, they're not going to do much. So we have to have a certain attitude. So if my understanding is clear in terms of Daivam, or to whatever degree it is clear, then I have a certain attitude. I have a certain attitude towards my action, and I have a certain attitude towards the result. Okay. So this particular attitude is what is called as Karma Yoga. So when Karma Yoga is discussed, it is discussed in terms of understanding what is it with reference to action, what is it with reference to the attitude. So action, in order to understand my attitude towards the actions have to be understood. And actions means it's not for human beings. Everybody acts, all living beings act. All of them act. Even a plant acts. So if you observe a plant, the leaf, etc., it will turn during the daytime. Well, it faces the sun, is open to the sun. So it'll change direction. So it acts, it responds. After all, what is an action? It's a response to the environment. Even plants respond to the environment. But then it's not the same as human beings. So animals respond, they also act. But for us, we have something else. Because we have free will, we have right and wrong. We have right and wrong. So some action, and we have a choice in actions. So some actions fall in the category of they are better than others. How do you make a choice? Since I have the freedom of choice to some extent, then I have to have a basis on which I make the choice. Karma involves making a choice for a human being, much more than it does in case of an animal or in case of a plant or a tree, which are also living beings. They're also living beings because they die. So these choices are there. So there has to be a basis on which I make a choice. There are two types of base. One basis is likes and dislikes. How do I choose what to do? Well, based on what I want to do, what I like, what I don't like. The whole life is based on likes and dislikes. Do what you like. Child wants to know, what should I do? What should I do in college, etc.? Well, do what you like. Do what you like. What should I eat? Eat what you like. Do what you like. This whole life is about doing what you like. The problem is no. So sometimes you have to spend a lot of time investing in order to get something. And so that means my like has to be constant. It has to remain the same during all the effort that I'm putting in for months and years. But our mind is fickle, you know. Our likes and dislikes keep changing because we get bored very quickly. And then something new comes in the front. So then this whole the confusion. Everything is confusion. That's why you're asking somebody else to begin with. What should I do? Because I'm not clear about what I like, what I don't like, because it keeps changing. You know. Anyway, so one is the basis of likes and dislikes in making a choice, and the other basis is right and wrong. You know, right and wrong. So, without getting into detail, so let's say this right and wrong is what we call as dharma adharma. Dharma adharma. So, I make choices based on likes and dislikes, or I base choices based on dharma adharma, right and wrong. So, when I make choices based on dharma and adharma, I'm working in harmony with an order, in greater harmony, let's say, than when I'm making choices of my own, based on my own likes and dislikes, because they vary, and my understanding is not always clear. Okay? So mind is full of understandings and misunderstandings and distortions and partial understanding and things like that. So here he says, in making a choice, so now I have comes to my attitude towards actions, is try to act based on as much as you can. That is where based on dharma adharma, based on right and wrong, rather than based on simply one's likes and dislikes, which will keep me more in harmony with the order, with Bhagavan's order. Then what about the phalam now? What should be? Isn't it, the question is, isn't it a bit unrealistic to expect us to be so altruistic as to focus only on the duty and not the result? Of course, it's unrealistic. The problem here is the focus. So if I focus, let us say I'm focusing on the result. The result, what result am I going to focus on? Of course, the result that I want. Okay. Am I going to focus on all the possibilities? It may be what I want, it may be what I don't want, it may be the opposite of what I want, it may be more than I want, it may be less than I want, there are so many possibilities. So if I focus my attention on the results, then I'm not available to do the action, to focus on the action. I focus on the action, the result is going to be what it is going to be. That is out of my hands. Action is in my hands, result is out of my hands. So, what is more practical? Forget the altruistic. Shastram doesn't want us to be altruistic. Altruism is a value that gives me certain things, certain benefits, as all values do, helps me become mature and so on. But scripture doesn't say, oh, you should just only be altruistic. No. It says, be realistic. This is being realistic. You understand towards the actions and towards the results. The result is, the point is that if I focus all my attention or most of my attention on the results, which is going to happen, what's going to happen, then I'm not having my energy to focus on the actions. Okay. It's more practical while I'm acting to act on the act. After I perform the actions, I want to shoot an arrow towards the target. If my focus, my whole attention on is it going to hit the target or not, I'm not focusing on the action. I'm worried about failure. That's what happens. People worry about failure, get anxious. I focus on the action because, oh, well, but I can't help it. I can't help it. I worry about the result. Well, okay, then worry about it, but worry about it after the arrow goes. There's plenty of time to worry. Okay. So tell your mind that, you know what? I am worried about this, but let me finish what I have to do. Then afterwards, I will worry. I'm worried about the result. Okay, I'll give the exam. Focus on the exam. Then that's why they give you time between the exam and the result, exam and the result. So there is a lot of time is there in between, buffer is there. So I will worry afterwards. Now let me focus on the exam. Then after the exam, I will worry for a while. Then I will get the result. Now, of course, the computer gives you instant results. So that creates another problem. But anyway, we won't get into that. So I have an attitude towards actions. Now I have an attitude towards results. Now, then the result comes. Okay. The proper attitude, now the result came. Now, attitude towards result is in terms of how I accept the results. Attitude towards action is in terms of how I perform the action. Now, when the result comes, I can take it. I have to take it anyway. I have to accept what comes as a result. And do I take it happily or am I unhappy about it? What would that depend on? Depends on my expectation. If I had big expectation is not what I expect, then I'm disappointed. I'm upset. If it is more than what I expect, I was expecting, so $500,000 second prize, lottery, I got the first prize. Then, so I'm happier. Or still I say, oh, maybe it should have been more. Whatever. So my reaction normally depends on my expectation. Here now, going back to this person who understands Daivam, this person knows that whatever result comes is part of the order. There is no prejudice and bias here. In the order, there is no prejudice and bias. What comes is what has to come. What needs to come is connected to the actions, it's connected to the unknowns. But it is fair and just that the person has that confidence, or knowledge, or that understanding, that wisdom, that confidence. So the action that comes, the result that comes is accepted in that understanding, and gladly, because it is part of Daivam. It has come from Bhagavan, because it is all a part of the laws. Not that I created the laws, but the laws of the divine. So, which is called as prasada buddhi. So, I accept the results as a prasada buddhi. I perform the actions based on dharma. This is what Gita tells. This particular attitude towards the actions that we do in our life, based on our free will, based on our choice. So in Bhagavad Gita, it's called as Karma Yoga. So now let us go back to some of these questions, which is, if we are not entitled to the fruits of our action, then what is the motivation? So, of course, we are entitled to our fruits, actions. That's why we do them. But the basis, on what basis we make our choice, is important. And how we accept our attitude towards the results that come to us is important. And that is what becomes the motivation. Doing our duty means living in on the basis of dharma adharma. That is our duty. That is how it will be defined. So how do we practice detachment from the results? We practice detachment from the results not by saying that, oh, I don't care about the results, I don't think about the result. That is not detachment. Detachment is, one thing is, I don't focus on the results when I have to perform the action. And also, so whatever comes to me is prasadam. Prasad. If it is prasadam, then we don't complain. When you go to the temple and you make offering to Bhagavan, you buy the best things, the best fruits, all that you like, sweets, etc. And then you go and offer to Bhagavan. And then it's offered at the feet. And then Bhagavan's feet, so many things are there, offered by so many people. And then the priest takes something and gives it to you, like prasadam. And so he gives you, sometimes he gives you a leaf, sometimes he gives you water, sometimes he gives you fruit, sometimes you get a mango, different things you get. When you get it, you don't look at what I got. You don't say, next time, every time I go, I take fruits for Bhagavan. But I only get a leaf back. And all other people get the fruits. They bring leaves and they get the fruits. So next time I am also going to take leaves only. Like that, we don't think. Whatever comes from Bhagavan is Bhagavan. We are happy. We are grateful. So that attitude of gratitude and being blessed is what is called as that prasada, buddhi, that attitude. Same thing is true for things we get in life. Even when they are based on our own actions and our own choices. Because there are so many laws involved, there are so many variables, there are so many non-variables, variables known, unknown. But it is all has to do with that divine order. So that is how we make choices, and perform actions. So one more question here. It's a specific question. Okay, good question. I log on to the online class from work. It is 3 p.m. in my part of the world. As it is during work, I may be breaking some rules. I probably are breaking some rules. I also do not have a choice with reference to the time of the class. It's true. Sorry about that. I want to study the Gita. I have made up for the time by staying back at work. Is my action right or wrong? Right or wrong? Well, so this is, so either way, I'm going to be wrong. Okay. I'm going to be wrong. Because, so this is like, that joke about this rabbi. So there were two people, they were having an argument. And the one fellow is saying one thing and the other person is saying exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. So they can't decide what is right. Then they decide to go ask this rabbi. Rabbi, we have a question for you. So this is what I think. A says, this is what this B thinks. Who's right? Who's right? They are opposites. So the rabbi looks at them and says, well, looks at A and says, well, you are right. And then he looks at B and says, well, you are right. both he says you are right. Then there's a third fellow who happens to be standing there. He turns to Rabbi, Rabbi, how can you say this? So he says the one thing, he says the opposite, and you're telling both of them you're right. How can both be right? So Rabbi turns to him and says, well, you are right. You are also right. Both can't be right. So here, is it right or wrong? Well, depends. Suppose I say it is right. That means the employer is not going to agree with that. That is wrong. I am paying you not to do something else. So if I say it's wrong to do this, then you say, but I mean, you're telling me it's wrong to study Gita. I'm not saying that. Anyway, the point is, I think it all depends on the employer, right? The question here is, does the employer know or doesn't know? Or make an arrangement. It's okay, I have to take this 1 hour off, where break in between, but I'll finish what I have to do before I finish it, and then I go. So I'm not concerned whether the employer knows or not. But if I'm hiding it and doing it, then obviously I'm doing something I'm not supposed to do. I'm not supposed to. Okay, so these are the kinds of simple choices we make. We make choice. I used to do this also, I tell you. So there was a course going on, and then I used to get tapes. And then, everyday class. So everyday tape, I have one class I have to do. But lunchtime, I used to listen. Lunchtime. But of course, I had a choice because it was a tape. So during lunchtime, I will eat my lunch, and while eating lunch, I would do the class, listen to the tape. So anyway, so these are simple things, Right and wrong are all contextual. Relative wrong, we make choices. Look at alternatives, make choices, and do what is comfortable for us. Is it okay to take a chance? Well, there is a consequence possible. A chance means then whatever happens, in between. Okay. So that is about karma yoga. There's one more question. This is the last question of the series that I have. It says a Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Shudra have certain duties to perform within the framework of the Vedic culture only. I think this sounds like it's a quotation. Why does the Veda discriminate based on which community a person is born into? Okay. This is a, important question, very important question. And something which we all have and grapple with, Okay, so let's get to this. So let's get the question first. Why does the Veda discriminate against based on community and birth? The first point I want to make is, does the Veda discriminate, really speaking, based on birth? It does not. Really speaking, it does not. Where does it in Vedas say that based on one's birth, or this is what happens. It doesn't say. In the Veda, it doesn't say. Scriptures don't really say. Bhagavad Gita also doesn't say. He says in the context of the Vedic culture, Vedika Dharma, we understand things in a certain way. You know. So the different communities, jati, there is this word called jati. So jati is a class, a species, a group is called as a jati. This is jati. So like the animals, the plants, the trees, so four-legged animals, two-legged, like that, there are different classes are there are different species are there, different groups are there. That is the word for jati, a particular group or a collection. So now we understand, the Veda says people as different, and in fact all living groups, all living beings, Bhagavan created living beings. Okay, because we see so many living beings, they are not the same nature. It could have been all just trees only, nothing else, or all human beings, no trees, no animals, no. Why are there all these, so many different groups are there? Who made all this? We classify people, correct, in different ways. So there are Indians, there are Americans, there are this, there are Europeans, there are, different countries are there. Now, who created this? Who created? Did Bhagavan create the differences between people? Or did people create the differences between people? When I say Indians are different, Pakistanis are different, and Americans are different, and South Americans are like that, and these distinctions, are they created by Bhagavan or are they created by us? Well, obviously they are created by us, because we define the boundaries of different countries, and the boundaries change. There was this country in Europe. You should read the history of Europe, very interesting. So certain countries like Poland, you read the history of Poland. At some point, this world war, between the world wars and all, there was no Poland. There was no Poland. So because it was, the whole country was annexed by the three neighboring countries completely. So there was no Poland. So there are Polish people are there. So the Polish. So before this happened, Polish were there. Then afterwards, after some war and all this, something, it realigned. They kept realigning this Europe. They kept breaking up countries and rejoining them. And again, there were Polish people. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that Polish people went out of existence for a while and then suddenly? No. So this is all created by us. So the jatis are created by us based on geography, based on all kinds of things. The elite, the non-elite, the left wing, the right leaning, left, all kinds of jatis are there, which we create, groups, grouping, classifications. These are all called jatis. So now, look at this now. So Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita, this word for jati, it's based, so these different jatis are there. Different, so he says, Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam. I created Varna. It's talking about Varna Dharma. We have to understand the difference between Varna and Jati. Okay. So Varnam is to describe, Varnyante, something that describes. So I look at people, and based on the description, certain description, these people are divided into groups, jatis. So he says, Guna Karma Vibhagashaha Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam. Sri Maya. So Bhagavan now, just imagine, Bhagavan says this. In other words, we didn't create this now, distinction. These distinctions or this kind of differences are created, are inherent, are created, means people are born like that, different, based on guna and karma. Guna karma vibhaga. Guna is a quality. So based on one's qualities and dispositions, when it comes to human beings, all beings are not the same. We are also not born the same. Even from the time we are born, there are differences. In guna is a quality, characteristics. Internal, not just physical appearance we are talking about here, but temperament, tendencies. All, you go to a new baby, postnatal, after birth, all babies are different. Some are quiet, some are restless, some are cranky, some are very alert. I mean, each one has a little different disposition. We are born with different dispositions. And then as we grow also, we have, our dispositions are different. So he says, I try to look upon, this all is connected to karma. Remember we said, so in karma, what happens? The choices and all that we make are based on likes and dislikes. And how do likes and dislikes develop in us? Well, based on our dispositions, our environment, our characteristics. All these things determine my thinking, my feelings, my urges, my impulses. So there are some who are quieter, more introspective. There are some who are aggressive. There are some who are extroverted. I mean, these are all, children look at young kids. So there is a certain inner differences are there. These are also called as guna bhagas, guna vibhaga. Based on one's disposition, people are different. People are different. Now, karma is an action. So the actions that we end up choosing are connected to our dispositions. Keeping that in mind, I look at two things: disposition and actions, guna karma. So these dispositions are, when I look at that, I group the whole thing into three categories. I look upon, just simplifying how to relate to different people. Different people are different. Each one is different and distinct. So there are people who are mature, contemplative, introspective. So these are called as sattva gunas. Three types of gunas are described: sattva guna, rajo guna, and tamo guna. Sattva, rajas, and tamas. And each person is a combination of all three. Combination of all three. So one is predominant, second predominant, third the least. Okay, to varying degrees. And these, based on one's disposition, one performs actions. That is also what we see. This is applies to everybody. Applies to everybody. So he says people who are of a certain disposition, they tend to choose certain kinds of activities based on their disposition. And so their actions are also categorized in four ways. Okay. There are three dispositions, but then sattva and tamas, two are the extremes. Then in between, so there's always a predominance of one over the other, considering that there are four categories talked about. So one is called as those actions are also classified in a fourfold way. There are Brahmana activity. So, for example, a person who's quieter, who's contemplative, who's more introspective, who's more, by nature, is going to be inclined to doing actions which are of a quieter, contemplative kind of a nature. So, those are called as Brahmana karmas. Like that, there are Kshatriya karmas, there are Vaishya karmas. So, like that, there are four categories. Okay. So, in choosing actions, again, you go back. Remember, I talked about choice based on likes and dislikes, choice based on right and wrong. So, the Vedic society, this is how it envisioned. So, there are different people with different qualities. There are different types of activities that are there, which are also based on, you know, described in different ways, fourfold ways. Now, who should do what? It's really determined by one's disposition. Disposition. Okay. What would happen in earlier days? Now, in all of this, it's not just the individual, it's also an environment, that affects it. So, in earlier times, before this industrial thing and all, everybody worked, there were trades. People had trades. The society lived by trade. So they had different professions. And generally, they also learned their profession through some kind of apprenticeship. They learned from their parents or some people around them what they wanted to learn based on their disposition. So the vast majority of the people just continued to do what their parents did. What the father did. If the father was a carpenter, the kid learned from him carpentry and became a carpenter. Because the whole life was centered around not living around likes and dislikes. Likes and dislikes don't facilitate maturity as much as living by right and wrong. So he says, you live a life based on right and wrong. What should I do? It doesn't really matter what you do so much. What is more important is you live by dharma. That is what helps a person mature. Oh, but then I have to do something. Do whatever your disposition leads you to do. Which generally happened to, because it wasn't such a big thing, what they did, they continued to do whatever came easy to them, which was the trade of their parents. That's all. That's all the role of birth here is in this. There's no other role of what one is born into. When you read the scripture, there's enough examples of people who were born of certain parents, but they did what they did. But the vast majority didn't do that because it was easier for them to just continue doing whatever they had learned to do. But the whole focus was on one's growth, personal growth, inner growth. So that was the Varnashrama, Dharma, the broad background of that. It had nothing to do with birth. Jati is not Janma Jati. Nowhere scripture talks about Janma. Janma is birth. Jati based on birth is not really mentioned in the scripture. Chaturvarnya maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasha. The vibhaga is of guna and karma, dispositions and actions, not birth. Janmana jayate shudra, it says. It says from the birth, at the time of birth, everybody is a shudra. Shudra. Because if you look at shudra disposition, there is no self. The only the person doesn't have, not contemplative much, not even ambitious, but very good in doing things what need to be done. You know, they're the workers. The good workers, there are poor workers. But basically they will work. What has to be done, you define the rules, tell them this is the job, and they will perform it. There is no big ambition to do what they want to do, or even so that is the disposition. In by birth, everybody is like that. All babies are all inert, sleep a lot, etc. Passive. So by Janma, everybody is a Shudra. Karmana Dvijaha Uchyate. Then you grow, you start learning. So like that, then you become mature. Karmana Dvijaha. So when you start studying, etc., gaining knowledge, then you are called as a Dvijaha. Dvijaha is the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, those three categories. Then Vipraha, we gain knowledge, you have a certain wisdom, you become more mature. That person is called as a Vipraha. Brahmana, tendencies are increasing. The Brahmana disposition is increasing. And then that's finally the Brahmana, predominantly Brahmana is the one. Vedadhyayena Viprahasyad Brahmano Brahma Vedana. Spiritually minded person is called as Brahmana, who seeks the truth, who's mature. So it's all connected to one's disposition. It's not connected to Janma. Then why all these problems? Not Veda didn't create this. That is the Vedic context. That is how the Veda tries to help us to understand people and ourselves and this process of maturity and life and making choices. It gives a certain template to live a life, to grow. Then what about all these community problems and all these caste problems and all? It's exactly the same way as we have problems between Americans and Indians and this one and that one. Who created all this? Don't blame Bhagavan. Don't blame Veda for this. What, didn't he do this? No, dude. It's like who created all these different countries and nationalities and groups of people and politics? Who created? Bhagavan created. Who elected our leaders? Bhagavan didn't recommend. Don't blame Bhagavan for this. Okay. So, we created it. So, Veda, it says, the Guna Karma Vibhaga, very clearly, Bhagavan says, Guna, based on Guna Karma Vibhaga, I created these differences. People are different. They are more mature, they are less mature. It's more equalized at the time of birth, relatively. But then the whole life is about either you stay at that level, which you were born, horizontal, no thinking, or you grow. That is the vision of Vaidika Dharma. That we need to understand, that context. So with this, we'll stop. It's a topic. These are the topics. It's going to be covered very much in detail in Gita about Karma Yoga and about also this Varna Dharma. So this is Varna Dharma based on description, Varna. Then there is also Ashrama Dharma, depending on our stage of life. You know, we go through different stages as a student, as a young person, as a youth, as an older person. Each stage of life has its own challenges and its own rewards also. So that attitudes based on stages of life, attitudes based on our dispositions, are what determine the choices and the actions that we make and the consequences that come to us. So this is all the subject matter there in detail. Okay, so good. We'll stop at this today, and you can, you know, put together so more questions as we go along. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.